Tonight, Lightning at Panthers. Florida leads the series 2-1. Dallas and Colorado tied at 2-2. NBA, Knicks over the Pistons 94-93. New York up 3-1 in the series. The finish of the game was contested. The T-Wolves beat the Lakers 116-113. Minnesota up 3-1. Boston up 3-1 over the Magic, 107-98 the final. The Pacers beat the Bucks 129-103 to go up 3-1. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Spring into deals with fresh savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Stay Green or premium 2 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 35% off select major appliances and save $50 on every $500 you spend on select LG appliances. Shop in-store or online today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/30. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See associate or Lowe's.com for more details or qualifying items. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
One of life's greatest mysteries has finally been solved.
Who let the dogs out? Spruce.
It's Spruce, the new hard-working, worry-free weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people and pets. When used as directed, spray the leaves for visible results in just 1 hour and dead weeds in just 1 day. You spray, they play. Weeds die by the next day. Find Spruce wherever weed killers are sold.
If you want to be an alpha,
you've got to get the winning edge.
It's kind of a necessary ingredient if you want to lead the pack. So mark your territory
with the winning edge.
You're in the big leagues. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here to start off a new week on Football Full Circle. It is FFC, all a part of the SportsGrid Radio Network and Sirius XM Channel 159. He is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. On this Monday morning, a ton to recap from the weekend that was in the entirety of the 2025 NFL Draft. Night number 2, rounds 4 through 7 since we last saw you. Night number 2 was rounds 2 and 3. 4 through 7 on day number 3 on Saturday. The biggest names, where they went, and of course the end of the Shedeur Sanders stumble in the 2025 NFL Draft. What it all means for this rookie class and the rest of the National Football League on this Monday, Joe, over the next hour.
Yeah, and we saw some, great players get picked up in terms of Saturday afternoon. Cam Scatterboot to the New York Giants. Yep. These are the storylines that'll help shape the offseason. But, the news of the day was day number 3, right, for Shedeur Sanders and how far he fell, potentially the worst drop that we've seen in terms of the NFL draft in maybe the last 30 or 40 seasons, right? We can't think of a quarterback that has fell from potentially a first top 10 selection into the 5th round, but it is what it is. And you look at Cam Ward, he solidified himself as the number 1 overall pick. What does that mean for Tennessee and some of the other teams looking to jockey for position? I thought some teams did a great job. I brought it up in terms of day number 1 and day number 2. I thought Atlanta, I thought Cleveland, outside, the obvious picks of Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur, really solidified themselves defensively and offensively. And we'll see now if these players can hit the ground running, Ben, but should be an intriguing offseason leading to the start of 2025.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Joe. And we are kind of firmly in that offseason now. Of course, some reactions to the NFL draft this week on FFC, but the offseason calendar does quiet down. We start the draft cycle at the end of the 2025 NFL season for some of those teams having the conversation around the first few picks of an NFL draft, even while the playoffs are taking shape. Certainly for the middle of February, after the Super Bowl, you get ready for the Combine, you get ready for Pro Days, you get ready for the NFL Draft, and all the speculation and the conversations that we have. That has now, of course, come to a close. Lisi Guy, let's talk about one of the main stories of the weekend and of this 2025 NFL Draft, the slide for Shedeur Sanders. As we said, at this time exactly a week ago, he was minus 280, a minus 280 favorite to be a top 10 pick. Is not drafted until round number 5. The long wait for Sanders ends on Saturday afternoon with the 144th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft The Browns select Shedeur Sanders in round number 5. Lisi, what did you make of that selection for Cleveland?
Well, again, the market spoke. We always talk about, personal opinion. My personal opinion is that Shedeur Sanders is a top 10 talent. But all 32 teams spoke and decided not to take him in terms of the 5th round. And that really speaks volumes as maybe it relates to the interview process, something that Shedeur Sanders did. And there's multiple reports coming out, the situation with Brian Dable implementing a package, Shedeur not really being prepared for that type of interview or
right.
Formation and type of, X's and O's type of schematic. That factors in, and coaches and that type of information travels. Forget the combine, forget him not practicing or really, evaluating his talents at the combine. We've seen players do that before. But if negativity comes out as it relates to the locker room or preparation, that is something that potentially could drop a quarterback. Now, we'll see how he rebounds. He has the opportunity to still win that job in Cleveland. He's got to come in prepared. We'll see what transpires in terms of the offseason. But it is one of the biggest drops that we've seen in terms of marquee names as it relates to a marquee position in the quarterback position in the last 25 to 30 years, Ben.
We have seen guys, Joe, that have been drafted in the late rounds on day 3, most notably, of course, Tom Brady, but even others that are starting right now, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, around the NFL. We have seen others excel and succeed despite being a round 4, 5, 6, or 7 pick. With that being said, though, those guys were not thought of as the second best quarterback in a draft class, a surefire top 10 pick in the days just prior to the beginning of that draft. So from the slide perspective, it is one of the most notable we have ever seen. Of course, all of the attention and notoriety paid to Shedeur and the last few years, of course, under his father, one of the most recognizable names and figures in football in the last 30 years in Deion Sanders. They thrive on this type of attention, but this is the negative of that, Joe. This is the downside of it. When you welcome all of that exposure, at times that exposure can leave you exposed. You have to take your humble pie as you are celebrated in the spotlight as well. We'll talk about Shedeur Sanders, where this leaves him in Cleveland in just a matter of moments. But the question, Joe, will always be why? How? How did he end up as a 5th round pick if the odds makers, many draft evaluators and scouts, even you and I, thought he was worthy of 1st round consideration, probably the second best quarterback in this 2025 draft class. So what was the issue? Did we overvalue his talent? Did we look at the numbers he put up both at the FCS level at Jackson State, the historic numbers he continued with at Colorado in Boulder, and overvalue what this guy could do at the most important position in sports? Perhaps, right? Perhaps, but I don't think it was nearly as bad as some people were making it out to be. Did we overvalue the character concerns? Now, Shedeur Sanders, it needs to be said, has never been involved with legal issues off the field. Is he perhaps a tad too cocky? Could you call him a jerk? Maybe, but it's not like he is a bad dude accused of doing bad things. He just might have a little bit too much cockiness for your liking. Was that too much for NFL organization? Perhaps. Joe, the reality of the situation is, though, we will never fully understand why Shedeur Sanders, thought of by most as a 1st round pick, ended up in round number 5. There's probably a little bit of all of those factors that have been circulated into one that make up the full picture, that full story. Perhaps we will never know. I think one of the best summations that I saw, you mentioned about the install from a specific interview reported by Todd McShay when he was meeting with Brian Daboll and the Giants. I saw a report from NFL Network's Tom Pelissero that I think really does stack up. I think if Shedeur's talent was overvalued, you're allowed to not work out at the combine. You're allowed to pick your spots, Joe, when you are thought of as a surefire top 5 pick. Maybe Shedeur Sanders in NFL circles was not. So I think the way that the Sanders family and his own camp conducted themselves in the lead up to the draft, going to the combine, but not working out at the combine, not even taking measurements at the combine, not going to the Senior Bowl, but instead going to the East-West Shrine Bowl, not working out there, going to the Big 12 Pro Day, but not working out there either. Really only to work out at his own special pro day in Boulder that was seen as a show. I think Joe probably rubbed people the wrong way, and I think it gave off the idea of what has been reported based on those poor interviews that Shedeur Sanders was telling teams what he would do, not listening to how those teams would value him, which I think was the main issue.
Yeah, and it's a job interview, right? So you want to go in, even though you're the top, quarterback in the class with Cam Ward, you want to go in with the looks of, hey, I want to do whatever it takes, and I want to make the organization happy. Not it's my way or no way. And maybe that's what got transferred in terms of the interview process or throughout the combine leading up to the draft. And I still believe the NFL is a very tight-knit family, right? So if that information, whether, the Pelissaro, report is true or the one from McShay, somebody might have leaked something. And then all of a sudden it becomes throughout 32 teams where, hey, if one, has negative, let's say, views about it, they all have negative views about it. And then that's what happens. They all back off and he drops.
4 out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. And we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin. He just gives that vibe. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. The Washington Commanders will build a new stadium in Washington, D.C., returning the team to its namesake city. The plan to be announced today between district and team leadership will see the construction of a new state-of-the-art arena on the former RFK Stadium site along the banks of the Anacostia River. A suspect has been arrested in connection with the theft last week of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's purse as she ate at a Washington, D.C. restaurant. Noem's purse was nabbed on Easter Sunday and reportedly contained about $3,000 in cash, her keys, driver's license, passport, and Homeland Security badge. The suspect was arrested Saturday. One person has died and several were injured Sunday when a boat crashed into a ferry off the Memorial Causeway Bridge in Clearwater, Florida, and then fled the scene. The U.S. Coast Guard and Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission will investigate the crash. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Are you a small business owner who needs immediate cash flow? At Swish Funding, we have flexible funding options from $25,000 to $2 million. For the best rates and terms for your business, just one application to Swish Funding gives you access to our entire network of funders, with cash in your account in as little as 24 hours. To qualify, you must be in business for at least 1 year with monthly revenue of $50,000. Apply at swishradio.com and use code RADIO. Swishradio.com, code RADIO.
There's something you should know and always remember.
SportsGrid does not increase luck.
We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck,
go find a horseshoe.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. Of course, the 2025 NFL Draft now in the books. We will highlight a ton of picks and teams that we enjoyed throughout the weekend. But of course, one of the main storylines and narratives surrounding the 2025 draft, Shedeur Sanders, taken in the 5th round at number 144 overall by the Cleveland Browns. Joe, let's start with that selection made by the Browns. You and I spent most of that opening segment discussing why and how Sanders fell. We're not always going to know the true answer to that. Will we get the full picture? Perhaps. But at this moment, it is just speculation. And that's the part of it, right? The narrative around the Shedeur Sanders stumble and slide. And then there is the reality. The Cleveland Browns drafting him in the 5th round at 144th overall. But what is fascinating, Joe, is that it was Cleveland. Because the one ironic pick with all of this that really made us question, oh man, this Sanders thing is a much bigger deal than maybe we even thought it was Dillon Gabriel being drafted 94th overall by Cleveland in front of Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders falling out of the first round. Surprising, but okay, I guess you could make sense of that. Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe going in front of Shedeur Sanders. Also surprising, but we had heard some positive things about both of those quarterback prospects. Dillon Gabriel in front of Shedeur Sanders was unthinkable. So for Sanders to end up in the same exact organization, who will go through the same exact rookie minicamp process alongside his now teammate in Dillon Gabriel, is a very fascinating thing.
Yeah, and not again, we're not going to knock Dillon Gabriel, okay? But if we're looking at prospects on the next level, Dillon Gabriel to me was a free agent signing after the first 7 rounds were over. You want to take a shot on Dillon Gabriel, that's all well and good. He's only about 5'11 and a half, 200 pounds, lefty. He obviously elevated, 3 programs with UCF, Oklahoma, and then his days in terms of Oregon leading them to an undefeated regular season last year before they lost to Ohio State. But in terms of quarterback prospects, if we're looking at Shedeur Sanders to Dillon Gabriel side by side, it's not even close, right? You would have to say Shedeur is the much better pocket passer and just pure quarterback over Dillon Gabriel, hands down. The fact that they shocked the world, per se, and pulled the trigger on Dillon Gabriel is just a head scratcher. Why would you waste that, in any capacity? You could have probably gotten Dillon Gabriel on Sunday afternoon in terms of a free agent signing, but they did it. Why they did it, we'll never know. And it was a slap in the face to Shedeur that they reached up then and traded up in the 5th round to grab him. They're going to have to go through minicamp. This quarterback job is up for discussion because all 4 quarterbacks can compete. So if Shedeur is NFL ready, he's going to showcase that in August and September, Ben.
Which made it really fascinating, Joe, for the Browns to end up being the team to draft Shedeur Sanders, because they made it very clear in the selection of Dillon Gabriel that in every interview they had with Gabriel, they welcomed Dillon Gabriel to Cleveland, to Berea, for a top 30 visit, that Gabriel was their guy in the pre-draft process that they were infatuated with, not Sanders. In fact, Joe, when we left our NFL draft show on Friday night and Shedeur Sanders was still on the board, you and I all said that when you look at where Sanders is now, it really opens up spots for teams that we did not expect would be in the running for Shedeur Sanders before the NFL draft got started on Thursday. The Steelers were a minus money favorite to draft Sanders at a point. The Raiders were a minus money favorite. The Browns, even entering Friday in night number 2, were a minus money favorite to be the most likely franchise to draft Sanders. But all of those teams we mentioned had multiple spots to draft Sanders and decided to go elsewhere. So for Cleveland to end up taking Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round was fascinating. And again, Joe, there will always be the speculation around the narrative of why Shedeur Sanders slid. The narrative in the media hype around it, frankly, has garnered both types of things, where it has started with this guy is being dropped in the draft because of conspiracies, to the opposite end of this guy stinks. He's not even worthy of being drafted at this point. Obviously, both of those things are asinine. It probably falls somewhere in the middle, but it represents this idea where you can attack the prospect that is Shedeur Sanders and not deal with reality. This is the reality. He was a 5th round draft pick. Wherever he ends up going, Joe, he is not thought of in the 1st round way. He is not thought of as the future face of the franchise. He is not thought of as a surefire starting quarterback in that organization. The task now for Shedeur is go to Cleveland and earn a spot on the 53-man roster. Battle for a spot in that quarterback room, a very busy and chaotic quarterback room in Cleveland, Joe, that features Kenny Pickett, who was acquired via a trade earlier in the offseason from Philadelphia, that features the veteran 40-year-old back in Cleveland once again in Joe Flacco, that features Deshaun Watson, who is owed a lot of money and financially tied to the Browns, although we do not believe it is likely that Watson will play another snap in Cleveland. And of course, it features Dillon Gabriel, who is now Shedeur's teammate, funny enough. and Shedeur Sanders filling out that QB room. It is jumbled. It is muddied, Joe. And now it's about, can Shedeur Sanders try to work his way to earning a spot on the team? Very different expectations now than maybe we thought just a week ago.
Yeah, but again, everything is right for the taking. I think when you look at the quarterback room, you can't say, hey, Shedeur can't win the job over Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel. You have to go out and earn it now. How much do you want it? Maybe it was a slap in the face. Maybe it was, the organization saying, let's take Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur and let's see if the kid's hungry enough, right? And nobody questioned the physical attributes. I think, the work ethic and we've heard the entitlement, the NIL situation, the star power. This is an opportunity for Shedeur to push that aside and say, I'm coming home to work. And if he's really serious about being a starter, he's going to come to work in the offseason, bottom line.
Joe, if there was some questions around the perceived arrogance of Shedeur Sanders, this should serve as a humbling experience, right? How does he respond now to this moment? That will be key. We'll see how it plays out in Cleveland. More on Football Full Circle up next.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1967, Muhammad Ali refuses induction into the Army and is stripped of his boxing title.
My conscience won't let me go shoot my brother. Some darker people, some poor, hungry people in the mud.
The greatest didn't fight again until 3 years later. And in 1971, Ali lost to Smoking Joe Frazier in what is called the fight of the century. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
RoboBee, an amazing technological achievement by Harvard University's microbiotics laboratory, is a 1-inch long, 80-gram synthetic insect intended to intelligently swarm and pollinate like real bees.
Frankly, the masses wouldn't appreciate it.
Which up till now has only had one problem.
I don't have any legs and can't land without killing myself.
However, due to a new Harvard evolutionary biology breakthrough study of insect locomotion,
bees got knees.
RoboBee can land with the graceful legs of the crane fly. One additional great feature of the RoboBee?
Huh?
No stinger. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
You better take a serious look at the Clippers at plus 750 here, because they are the one team that I think is worth taking a flyer on. If anybody's going to beat OKC, it's this Clippers team that is built to do that. At plus 750, that's your value.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. There comes a point when the chips are down.
To coin a phrase.
When the only thing you can do is stop and wait. Do you want to face that moment prepared?
Or rely on luck?
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
We're live right here on FFC. So, Lisi, guy, you have mentioned it. The task now for Shedeur Sanders is to go into Cleveland and compete. Can he compete for the starting quarterback job for the Browns entering 2025? Lisi, if I were to set a line, and I'm not sure there is one out there, but if I were to set a line over under a game and a half, or maybe let's make it a little bit more juicy, over under 2.5 games that Shedeur Sanders starts for the Cleveland Browns in 2025, which way would you bet it?
I would say for him to start 1-2 games, I think is very high. I mean, I think he can win the job if he's dedicated, and focused. So, I mean, I would make the line minus 165, 170 that he starts at least 1 or 2 games this season. I think it's minus money, definitely. I don't think it's plus money in any capacity. Yeah. Now, if we're looking at week 1 versus like week 10, that's a totally different story. Look at the body of work that Cleveland utilized all of last year, right? We had, Jameis Winston, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We had Deshaun Watson. I mean, there's three right there, and yes, I think they did a very good job offensively implementing, pieces in place. Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, just to name a few. They got the defensive talent as well, Mason Graham. But the quarterback position is still the X factor. Depending on what they get out of that, and you still have a journeyman in Joe Flacco that potentially could beat out Kenny Pickett. Yeah, I think he's got a very good shot to win a starting job or more importantly, start one or two games. So minus 165, 170 would be the mark on Shedeur to start one or two games this year.
I would hear 2+ starts at minus 175 if you wanted to make it that way. 2.5 if you made the number look like that. Maybe a little bit more juice on the under than the over, but certainly in the realm of multiple starts this year. Lisa Guy, 5.5 is the win total for Cleveland. The under has the juice at minus 135. It is 5 cents away from the New York Giants, who are also 5.5 under at minus 140 from being the worst win total in the National Football League in 2025. Of course, the expectations are not sky high. When Myles Garrett re-signed despite a trade request earlier in the offseason with Cleveland for $40 million per year, you understood why. Despite Garrett saying, I have met with the Browns front office, I have met with the Browns brass, they have told me they're playing at the quarterback spot. I believe in the direction of this franchise. I do not imagine that Myles Garrett looked at the quarterback room he sees now and was told that is the plan. Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, and Deshaun Watson. But because that is the exact QB room, I do think there is a chance that Shedeur Sanders starts at least a game this year in Cleveland if he does work to make the 53-man roster. We shall see. Again, a lot needs to be figured out for the Browns. Lisa Guy, outside of Shedeur Sanders, multiple quarterbacks going on days 2 and 3. In fact, we saw 13 QBs taken in the 2025 NFL Draft. 2 in the opening round, Cam Ward first, Jackson Dart 25th overall to the New York Giants. Of course, some other notable ones, Tyler Shuck, 40th overall, round 2 to New Orleans. Jalen Milroe, of course, late in the 3rd round to Seattle. Kyle McCord, Will Howard, 6th round draft picks. Quinn Ewers, 7th round pick, but to the Miami Dolphins. Lacey Guy, of some of those other quarterbacks that we saw taken on day number 3, who are you most optimistic by?
And you think about certain fits, Ben, Will Howard to the Steelers isn't a bad fit. Why? Because he played in a cold weather environment in Kansas State and Ohio State, led his team to a national championship. He's a big kid, goes about 230. We know that they like to utilize him in the RPO game, which is, Pittsburgh still likes to run the football, right? They have Caleb Johnson now, even though they lost Najee Harris. So I think that fit. Now, is Will Howard going to emerge and be a Ben Roethlisberger? I'm not so sure. But could he be a starter with that team? Look, if Mason Rudolph and Will Howard are battling it out, Ben, I mean, come on. I mean, what is this team doing? I don't think it's a bad fit. I mean, I don't think Will Howard is Dan Marino or any strong-arm quarterback that we're going to say will take Jaden Daniels-esque. But he could still potentially start because of his age, because of his running ability, and knowing just how bad right now they are in terms of the quarterback position, there's a good shot he could get a start this year.
Listen, I don't think Pittsburgh did anything in the draft to address that starting quarterback room, which of course leads to some conversation about when/if we are going to hear from Aaron Rodgers becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler. A little bit more on the quarterbacks and some other day 3 picks that we enjoyed up next on Football Full Circle.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. NBA playoffs, the Knicks beat the Pistons 94-93 to go up 3-1 in the series. The T-Wolves over the Lakers 116-113. Minnesota up 3-1. The Celtics lead the Magic 3-1 after a 107-98 win. The Pacers up 3-1 on the Bucks. They beat Milwaukee 129-103. NASCAR Cup Series at Talladega on Sunday. The checkered flag captured by Austin Cindric. Kyle Larson ran second. William Byron third. Cindric started seventh and led 7 laps. Larson started 25th. He led 3 laps. Cindric held off Ryan Preece down the stretch to win. Following the race, Preece and Joey Logano were both disqualified, both for violations found with their rear spoilers. Shedeur Sanders had to wait until the 5th round before he was finally selected by the Cleveland Browns. Cam Ward was the first overall selection on Thursday. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling Grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. Offer valid through 5/19/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-source single line activation on qualifying plan. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
If you're hiring, it can feel like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. Like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Now try ZipRecruiter free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/FREE.
You're listening to Sports Grid.
Spreading the winning edge far and wide.
Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The winning edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. It is FFC. Lisi, as we look at the 2025 quarterback draft class. Again, this QB class not nearly as illustrious as the one a year ago that saw 6 QBs go in the first round, all 6 quarterbacks in the top 12. We did have 13 this year, plenty of them late in day number 3, round 6 and 7. A quarterback, Joe, that got a lot of shine on Saturday, maybe for not the right reasons, that was Quinn Ewers. Shedeur Sanders and his draft stock slide were one of the main stories of this draft. Outside of that, though, Quinn Ewers being a 7th-round pick was very, very notable because of the notoriety Ewers had throughout the entirety of his high school recruiting and then collegiate career. Of course, led Texas to 2 consecutive college football playoff appearances each of the past 2 seasons. But Lisi got to end up as a 7th-rounder was shocking. And a lot of people made the point that if Quinn Ewers had simply stayed in college, entered the transfer portal, played somewhere else in 2025, he could have garnered at least $4 to $5 million for this season in college football. He won't make even close to that if he sees the entirety of his rookie contract. What do you make of Quinn Ewers and his NFL future?
Well, again, he wasn't going back to Texas, right? Could he have gone to a program like, Miami, like Carson Beck did, or North Carolina with Belichick? It's possible. I saw the report, Ben, of $8 million. Based off of reports that he could have garnered $8 million in terms of NIL. So think about that. But here's the thing: either you want to stay in college, or you want to elevate yourself and potentially challenge and with the best of the best, and that's what he chose to do. His heart was in Texas after he transferred from Ohio State. Couldn't lead the Longhorns to a national championship. I don't have a problem with it. At the end of the day, he was injured for much of the last year as well. And again, I don't know if Quinn Ewers would have elevated his stock to the point of, top 5 with Arch in the mix, right? We'll see. But I like it for the Dolphins. Knowing how banged up Tua is, there's no doubt that Quinn Ewers could play. Hopefully he comes in. I think he's a little out of shape. When you look at him, he needs to get a little bit more, cardio in his workout regime. But if he does that, I think he can clearly be a number 2 in Miami.
Yeah, it's interesting, right, Joe? Because as that guy that you're drafted late in the 7th round, you're not expected to come in and be a starting quarterback. You are not expected to come in and to compete for a starting job. If you earn a spot on the roster, that would be successful. So I hope Quinn Ewers has that opportunity in Miami. I do think, Joe, there was a lot of conversation around Quinn Ewers and the idea that he was dumb for leaving college and passing up on money. Sometimes for these guys who have made a lot of money during their collegiate career, it's not all about those expenses. But outside of that, Joe, we get mad at kids when they enter the transfer portal to go get the reported $3 to $4 million that we hear about via reports. You get mad at them for chasing the bag in college, and they leave the bag behind collegiately to chase their dream in the NFL, and you point your finger and laugh at them. You cannot have it both ways. We wish Quinn Ewers the best of success in the NFL. Some other QBs drafted: Riley Leonard, 6th-round pick to Indianapolis; Graham Mertz to the Houston Texans. How about what the Raiders did, Joe? At the end of round number 6 on Saturday, Tommy Mellott, who played QB at Montana State, but they expect to be more a wide receiver look in the National Football League, drafted just a few picks ahead of Cam Miller, who played quarterback at North Dakota State. Those two guys squared off against one another in the FCS National Championship game this past January. And Curtis Rourke, a 7th-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers out of Indiana. A lot of quarterbacks, Joe, in total getting drafted in day number 3.
Yeah, now Cam Miller's interesting from North Dakota State. We saw him tear up Colorado's defense week number 1 of this past year, a very mobile quarterback utilizing the RPO game as well. But Tommy Mellott, you mentioned that they squared off in that national championship game. He's trying to be like Julian Edelman, right? He's a very athletic quarterback, can run the football as well. Can he elevate his game to maybe make that roster? We know that Las Vegas was in wide receiver help, and they did that and obviously solidified that with some of their earlier round picks. If Mellott makes the team, you always want versatility, right? That's the thing. When you take a late round draft pick, a guy that was a former quarterback can't hurt. You have an emergency number 3 potentially at any time, right? So you're saving draft capital in that regard in roster space. Again, when you have athletic quarterbacks on the next level, they can elevate their game. We'll see what both of those quarterbacks do, but that's what it takes. And the Raiders are in a rebuild type of mode. We'll see. And I think the other quarterback that we need to mention is Milroe, right? Definite project like AR. Went to a really good fit, I believe, in Seattle. Run-heavy offense now with that, type of mentality, even though they have Sam Darnold, solidified the offensive line. He could be utilized immediately in terms of an RPO game with Zach Charbonnet, sprinkling maybe, other running backs. They're going to be legit in terms of running the football.
A high upside for Jalen Milroe. I question how successful he will be playing the quarterback role in the National Football League. How about Kyle McCord? An ACC record 4,779 passing yards last year, drafted by his hometown team, the native of Mount Laurel, New Jersey, who played his high school football in Philadelphia at St. Joe's Prep. He is now going to be in the quarterback room for the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. A great selection early in round number 6, if I do say so myself. Lisi, how about a couple of other draft picks that you liked in day number 3? It doesn't just have to be the quarterback spot.
I like Taj Brooks, 6th-round draft pick from Cincinnati. I thought come on. We're talking about one of the most productive running backs in all FBS, yards after contact. He averaged, Ben, over 115 total yards per game. When you talk about third down backs and you talk about Chase Brown being in that lineup and knowing how he got hurt, Taj Brooks could be utilized in terms of third down opportunities. Dylan Sampson. Well, they get Quinshawn Junkins for Cleveland, and you sprinkle in Dylan Sampson. That's amazing what Cleveland has from an offensive perspective. I love what the New York Jets did with Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor could have been a first-round selection. They passed on Ty Warren. I believe they got the best route runner in terms of the tight ends. I honestly believe Mason Taylor will elevate that passing attack with Justin Fields. So there's a number of different teams that help themselves. Again, Atlanta, what they did, Arizona with their defensive picks elevated Walter Nolan in terms of pick number 1, but then you back it up with the secondary picks. I really like what Jonathan Gannon did. Will Johnson, Denzel Burke. I mean, those are legitimate players that could be plug-and-play guys for starting week number 1. So I think Arizona, Atlanta did a great job. I like what Cleveland did. Those are just some of the guys that stand out to me early on.
Yeah, Lisa, it is also pretty interesting. Donnie brought this up earlier today on the early line, that when it's not such a heavy quarterback class, right? And a quarterback class, or a draft class rather, is anchored to the QB position, where you're like, okay, how is he going to succeed? Is he going to fail? Is he going to be the face of the franchise? It allows teams to address a variety of positional needs where the quarterback might not be the headliner. Completely agree with a couple of the teams that you highlighted. I really liked what the Panthers did in this draft. Teteroa McMillan in the opening round, Nick Scorton in round number 2, a very talented edge rusher out of Texas A&M. I thought the Texans got better addressing the offensive line, the pair of teammates from Iowa State in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. I really like what Houston did, and I liked a ton of the running backs in what was a deep running back draft class, Joe, that we'll highlight here on the other side of the break. Love Travion Henderson making his way to Foxborough with New England. Thought he should have gone before Quinshon Judkins early in that second round. How about the New York Giants drafting Cam Scatterbo? I'll talk about it up next here on Football Full Circle.
We're not saying every SportsGrid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie. Just saying. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. One person has died and several were injured Sunday when a boat crashed into a ferry off the Memorial Causeway Bridge in Clearwater, Florida, and then fled the scene. The U.S. Coast Guard and Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission will investigate the crash. The Washington Commanders will build a new stadium in Washington, D.C., returning the team to its namesake city. The plan to be announced today between district and team leadership will see the construction of a new state-of-the-art arena on the former RFK Stadium site along the banks of the Anacostia River. A suspect has been arrested in connection with the theft last week of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's purse as she ate at a Washington, D.C. restaurant. Noem's purse was nabbed on Easter Sunday and reportedly contained about $3,000 in cash, her keys, driver's license, passport, and Homeland Security badge. The suspect was arrested Saturday. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Okay, raise your hand if you want to make your life a little bit easier. Great. Now raise your other hand if you like to be comfortable. Perfect. Now that you have both hands raised, imagine putting on your shoes. And that, folks, right there is your answer to an easier, more comfortable life. Go hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins. This is footwear you don't need your hands to put on. They can be raised in the air, and you can just step it and go. Why don't you experience what people can't stop talking about? Life-changing Skechers Slip-ins. Get your Slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Remember when you were thankful you could just get AM and FM?
Things have progressed.
Now even an app on your phone can give you a 21st century thrill with that little drop of heaven called
the deposit notification.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. It was not the greatest quarterback draft class in 2025, but of course at the running back spot, a lot to love. Ashton Genty goes in the first round, 6th overall. Earliest we have seen a running back get drafted in the National Football League since Saquon Barkley in 2018. We'll take a look at the Offensive Rookie of the Year odds, Defensive Rookie of the Year odds as well. But Lisi, I loved what we saw out of the running back spot. Day 2, day 3. You and I highlighted that early on in this draft cycle, how you were going to be able to get a guy that could be an instant impact contributor early on in their NFL career, maybe as late as Saturday. You highlighted Taj Brooks. You talked about Dylan Sampson. I think we saw a few others on day 3 as well. Cam Skattebo, early on in round number 4 to the New York Giants, should be a crowd favorite, and I think is going to make an immediate impact. Alongside Tyrone Tracy, who was great during his rookie campaign for the G-Men, I like what the Giants did with Cam Skattebo. I also like what we saw the Patriots do early on night number 2, drafting Travion Henderson. Should be a nice pairing alongside Drake May, and a guy who is really good as a receiver out of the backfield, but really good in all 3 phases. Good at running the football and good in pass pro as well. I really like Travion Henderson finding his way to New England.
Yeah, and it's a great fit because what do they have? They have basically between the tackle runners, like in terms of Ramondre Stevenson and his skill set. Now they get the home run hitter, and they get a player not just in terms of third down protection, but you look at his game film and look at his explosiveness in the short to intermediate passing game. He can take it from point A to point B in a heartbeat. Just ask the Texas Longhorns, where he completely changed the momentum in the second quarter of the semifinal playoff win. So Travion Henderson is a great selection. I think when you look at some of the other backs outside the ones that we mentioned, Ollie Gordon is funny. If we were talking NFL draft, right, and prior, he fell to the 6th round. Now, I don't know, Ben, if he's going to make the squad with Miami, but just because of what they have there, and Wright, and obviously Devon Achane and those, speedy backs. But Ollie Gordon is a really, you give him a hole, and I'm talking north and south, not on the perimeter. Yeah. You give him a hole between the tackles, he could take it to the house. And he's a guy that's 6'5", 6'6", falls forward, yards after contact. He's going to be an intriguing prospect for Miami or wherever he goes if he doesn't make the team. I think another running back that really, made, an impact. How about Devin Neal to the New Orleans Saints? Because he's a player that can catch a football as well. We know that Alvin Kamara is, sort of regressing and at the end of his career. He is an explosive back that is also utilized in the passing attack as well. You put him on fast turf. Devin Neal, I think, could be a guy that on the next level. You're laughing. Why? Because he's KU and that's your guy?
No, I'll tell you in the commercial break. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
I'm watching. Yeah, all of a sudden, I know. Here we go. Yep.
Another running back that I would highlight also on day number 3, Jaden Bluejo, the speedster out of Texas that is a great receiver, staying in state, going to the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, they need all the running back help they can get. Speaking of running backs, Lisi Guy, the offensive rookie of the year odds, the defensive rookie of the year odds are now out. Ashton Genty, who went 6th overall to Las Vegas, is the early favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year at plus 270, over $1 in front of Cam Ward, who was the first overall pick, of course, by the Tennessee Titans. You might be asking yourself, well, where is Travis Hunter? Well, the idea that Travis Hunter in Jacksonville can do a little bit of everything, which has been the clear indication from the Jags' new GM, James Gladstone, new head coach, Liam Cohen, that he is going to explore playing both sides of the football, Joe. Because of that idea, maybe he is a master of 2 or a master of none. We shall see. Plus 750 for Travis Hunter to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, third best price. 10-1 for Hunter to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, also the third best number.
Yeah, I mean, it is. That's an interesting number because outside of Brian Thomas, he has the potential to be a 1,000-yard wide receiver, right? And knowing if Trevor Lawrence bounces back in a big way, Hunter at plus 750 seems like, pretty good odds right now. Are we going to bounce and think Cam Ward's going to elevate Tennessee the way Jaden Daniels did? It's possible, but highly unlikely, knowing that the type of wide receiver talent they still have there and multiple holes to fill. I don't like his value at plus 380, even if he starts every game. I think some of the other players, that you look down the board, Matt Golden at 20-1, he's going to be potentially, wide receiver number 1 in Green Bay with Jordan Love. How about Quinshon Judkins at 20-1? We talk about that room being elevated with Dylan Sampson. Quinshon Judkins to be the workhorse taking over for Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb. We know they want to run the football. If he comes out and rushes for 1,200, 1,300 yards and multiple touchdowns, I like Quinshon Judkins at a 20-1 number.
You know, Lacey, guy, last year it was really a debate between Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, right? Which of those two quarterbacks were going to win the award? Because Offensive Rookie of the Year, despite seeing a quarterback win it 2 consecutive years in a row and run away with the hardware, is not often a quarterback award. Why? Because when you are a rookie quarterback, you normally go to a spot that is not expected to do much. And even though you might be okay, if your team finishes 7-10, there's not a lot to love there. Cam Ward will head to Nashville. The Titans have a win total of 5.5, although the over does have the juice. We are not expecting Cam Ward to be generational, much like we saw Jaden Daniels or C.J. Stroud the year prior. But he could be. If the Titans are good in a weak division, Cam Ward makes a lot of sense to me. The last running back to win Offensive Rookie of the Year was the last running back to go as early as we saw Ashton Genty. Second overall, Saquon Barkley back in 2018. Genty, the earliest a running back has been selected since that 2018 draft, and is the favorite. Omarion Hampton probably going to have a fair share of workload under Jim Harbaugh in LA. 14-1. Quinshon Judkins 20-1. Travion Henderson 20-1. And Shedeur Sanders 25-1. If he can earn a spot in Cleveland and start a few games and take over that starting role early, he would certainly be in consideration. We'll talk Defensive Rookie of the Year and some closing thoughts around the National Football League on the other side of the break here on Football Full Circle.
Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channel dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
It's stark but true. You can either listen to SportsGrid for strategies, odds, and more, or you can pay your bills by digging in your couch cushions for change. Just be sure to wear gloves. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. It should be mentioned, Joe, Jackson Dart, 22-1 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I asked you the same question about Shedeur Sanders, over under 2.5 games started. You set the line 2+ starts at a pretty -170, -175 number. What do we say about Jackson Dart? How many games does he start, if any, in 2025 for the G-Men?
He's got to start. He has to start.
Right.
You reached up into the first round to grab him. He has to be ready for year number 2. I'm going to say 2 to 3 as well. I think he's got to at least get a couple of starts under his belt. Unless the Giants start 8-0 and you say we're fighting for, wild card or a division title, which, let's be honest, with a 5.5 win total, Ben, once they're like 2-8, you give the reins to Jackson Dart for the second half of the season and let him cook. I mean, really, midway point's got to be the real ultimate determination whether he could be a starter. You start him from week 10 on, and that's it.
Yeah, Lacey, it is interesting, right? Because in Cleveland, it's a mess of a quarterback room where they didn't really make all that many moves this offseason. Certainly did not pay a ton to trade for Kenny Pickett or bring back Joe Flacco. The Giants did, right? They paid for both Jameis Winston and more than $20 million, at least for this year, on Russell Wilson. We shall see what becomes of the G-men, and Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are not going down without a fight. If this is their last year in 2025, they have that first-round quarterback that they can try to build some hope around. The favorite Joe to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, no surprise, is Abdul Carter at plus 250. Jalen Walker, who, of course, makes his way. Now I'm blank. Where did Jalen Walker go? 11th overall.
Atlanta.
Atlanta. 11th overall was Michael Williams to San Francisco. Right. Jalen Walker, correct. 15th overall to the Atlanta Falcons. Travis Hunter there, though, at 10-1 as well. It's interesting, Joe, because if there were an NFL Rookie of the Year, no designation, offense or defense, Travis Hunter would be a minus 150 favorite. But the fact that we expect Jacksonville to allow him to play both sides of the ball, what exactly that looks like, is he playing 50% of the snaps on each side, 80% offense, 15% defense, whatever it might be. But because we know he is going to play on either side of the football, it kind of detracts from him specializing in one area and winning that Rookie of the Year award.
Oh, or you could take the special on FanDuel at 50-1 for him to win offensively and defensive, player of the year, rookie player of the year. Right. Then you have both covered. If we're talking defensive rookie of the year, last year it was Jared Verse, right? Similar player in terms of Michael Williams. I'll tell you, I really like him. I love the fit with San Francisco, 11-1. I think he's going to start immediately. He's a dominant edge rusher. And we talk about Georgia players translating to the next level. Yeah. I don't think Michael Williams misses a beat. So give me the 11-1 shot. I think that's a great number for a player that has a great motor and great upside and can still add some size in a veteran type of team. He could be a dominant force for that team. 11-1 is a great value in my opinion.
Opposite Nick Bosa, Joe, you would think he probably gets a couple of better blocking alignments to get some better shots at the quarterback. Like the look there. I do believe Abdul Carter alongside Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence in the middle is going to wreak some havoc for the New York Giants. 700.5 receiving yards prop for Travis Hunter. If you think Travis Hunter has any shot of excelling in his rookie season, that's a dead over, Joe. Liam Cohen gets Trevor Lawrence back to playing Trevor Lawrence football alongside Brian Thomas Jr., knowing what that offense could be. 700.5 is a discount. In fact, so much of a discount, I'm going to go bet it because I think that number is only going to be on the rise throughout the remainder of this summer offseason and into 2025.
It's a cheap number. I mean, in knowing the pass-happy league as well and knowing that they have playmakers there, he's not going to force double teams, right? That's going to be Brian Thomas. So now you have an opportunity to eat underneath, and that's what he could do. 700 could be 5-6 games, Ben.
Brian Thomas showing his rookie campaign more than 1,000 yards receiving as well. And, of course, my FanDuel app is not opening at this moment for me to place that bet, but you can guarantee that I will. Joe, some news for the Commanders. They have agreed with D.C. to renovate RFK Stadium, try to make it as innovative as possible and return to the nation's capital. We'll see exactly when that happens. They expect 2030 to maybe be the start of that new stadium. He's Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. That does it for us today on Football Full Circle. We're back tomorrow, noon Eastern time, right here on SportsGrid Radio.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.